You have probably heard a lot of news, especially from the right-wing media and, of course, the Brexiteers, trying to play up, especially this weekend, that imminently there is a trade deal with India about to happen. Well, I'm sorry to burst your bubble. It's probably not going to happen. And either two things will happen. Either A, it won't happen. It just will not. We know that these negotiations are stuck completely because India wants more visa access. And, well, the current government, especially the Conservatives, don't really want to offer that. They know it's not a good look when, especially many of their, shall we say, their Brexiteers in their party were all about lowering immigration. And we've got the whole thing with, the small boats. And as we've talked about thousands of times, those small boats, that's not how most immigrants come into this country. But if you want to continue on, crying about that very inconsequential way, be my guest. Like I say, if Nigel Farage was really worried about, shall we say, immigrants coming to this country, he'd be more at Heathrow Airport with his binoculars looking up through into the sky, trying to identify which plane's got the most migrants coming on it. But of course, you don't see him do that because, well, it makes him look a bit foolish. But, and of course, the second one is what has been dubbed as the fast deal. Now, Australia did something very similar as well. And these fast deals were done in the hope that, or at least Australia's deal was done in the hope that this would lead to a larger trade deal. Now, of course, that particular, quote, fast deal, which was going to lead onto a larger trade deal, well, nothing has happened in 7 years since Australia struck that quick deal. And it has hardly been a massive success. And this is very, very much so because especially India mostly has this attitude of self-reliance and, we can make it here. And that is very much their attitude that they have really taken since independence, an absolute refusal to really let any sort of foreign countries have access to their market. That is how they have run their economy. Now, slowly but surely, that is changing. But that is still the main way at the moment. So there is no way at all, there is going to be a trade deal. I will be very shocked if there is a trade deal. And if there is a trade deal, it's not going to be a full comprehensive trade deal. It's going to be one of these quick win, oh, aren't we good, global Britain, etc., wins. But if you are a pro global Britain supporter, you should be absolutely flabbergasted that we have potentially been left out of one of the biggest trade route creations in years, if not decades. And of course, this is the US and the EU and India trying to create a new trade corridor that is going to link Europe, the Middle East, and India. Now, technically, that already exists, but putting more effort into sort of the infrastructure so that trade can flow more easily and freely, as we saw with the Evergreen disaster that happened, which blocked the Panama Canal, not Panama, the Suez Canal. Get the canals right, which blocked the Suez Canal for a couple of weeks. That was because that canal has not really been expanded as it should have done over the years. So there's now going to be more money flowing in to develop that infrastructure and ports and roads and rail links, so you can move big amounts of cargo. And still the best way to do that is by big ships. And of course, once it gets to its destination, it goes onto the port, goes onto the rails, goes onto its destination. And we've been left out of that. Like, we have fully been left out of that because we're not in the EU. And you can see the picture here. You've got Modi, you've got Ursula von der Leyen, you've got Biden. We are not in that picture. Rishi Sunak is nowhere to be seen in that photo whatsoever. But doing this and creating this makes massive economic sense for these three countries. Even the US, that technically isn't in that, it's good for them because, well, this helps them beat China. And it especially boosts the EU up quite significantly as well, improving once again its trade, its status, and importance in the world. And just as we left it, our significance is going. um, just as last week we talked about James Cleverly's trip to China, which was hugely embarrassing and, to be honest, ultimately humiliating for the UK. This just goes to show you just how out of the picture we are now. And this whole thing about us becoming sort of the sick man of Europe again, it's going to happen because we're out of the link, we're out of the loop. We've got all these trade barriers now that were never there before. The UK is becoming less attractive options for businesses to come and invest in. It's as simple as that. And we've had a government that has promised to level up the country, hasn't done that. To be honest, to quote, I think it was someone in Bradford. I think it's become a bit of a sick joke, to be honest. A bit of a sick joke to pull on the people, especially in the north, who desperately need funds to really level up the country. And funnily enough, it's 10 years almost to the day since George Osborne announced the Northern Powerhouse Initiative that was going to help to power up the North. It's another leveling up program and scheme that the Tories did not invest in. But you know who was really interested in investing in that scheme? The EU. Of course, until Brexit, and then yeah. It just goes to show you that global Britain, this very much vaunted true prize at the end of the rainbow for Brexit, as we said at the time and throughout all this, was never going to happen. And you can go back and you can listen to the rhetoric that the Brexiteers put out. And everything they are saying is very, very much anti-global Britain, but they managed to sneak it in very, very much after the referendum. Very much so. And here we are now, being left out of the development of one of the biggest trade routes, trade roads in the world. We're no longer in the EU. We're not going to get a single penny to help develop the ports, roads, and rails that is going to be put into this. And yet, as I've said before, part of the reason why you need HS2, because that would be a massive boom to cargo, especially heavy cargo, up and down and around the UK. It just goes to show you just how pathetic now this whole idea of global Britain is, or it has become. And even was in the first place, that it was a fantasy that the Brexiteers indulged in and was never going to happen. So this happening at the G20 this weekend, once again, shatters the myth, or the delusion, even more better, really, to put it, that was this idea of once we leave, we'll become global Britain. Meanwhile, India, the EU, the US, creating one of the biggest trade links from India, the Middle East to Europe. Sums it all up, really, doesn't it? But as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to the Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button. And of course, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So, as always, until then, we'll see you all next time.